Sometimes I find myself falling down whole rabbit holes online of things, stories and stuff. And there's a case, there's a trial. It just ended. And I think it may qualify for trial of the century. I know that's premature to say, but I don't know. I think it's pretty incredible. The trial of Young Thug just ended. Now, if you don't know who Young Thug is, he's a rapper. It's not a dog whistle this time. All right? Young Thug is a rapper that was on trial in Fulton County in Georgia, right? Basically, the state's case, what they were alleging was that he took all of the money that he made from music and he funneled it through and to a gang called YSL, a gang that he was supposedly the leader of, right? And that's the state's case. And the judge in the case looked exhausted. I've never seen a judge act like this before. Every time the court camera cut to her, her head was in her hands. And I'm not gonna act like I know the law, okay? My understanding of the law sort of begins and ends with Law and Order SVU, all right? So I know you can sustain, and you can object. I've never heard a judge be like, you can't do that. She said it a lot. And now the prosecution in the case, the prosecutor had given out a lot of plea deals. Ton of plea deals. More plea deals than I thought you could give out. I didn't have a number in my head, but this felt like an egregious amount of plea deals. It just felt like she was going to the hood like, you get a plea deal, you get a plea deal, you get a plea deal, you get a plea. She was basically giving a plea deal to everybody in Georgia but Young Thug, right? And she was giving these plea deals in return for their cooperation, their testimony that she would use to piece by piece paint the bigger picture that the state was alleging that Young Thug's the leader of YSL. Everything they do is by his direction. All his money goes through and to them, right? And the only problem is the prosecutor in this case gave plea deals to some of the least helpful people in human history, all right? I've never seen people less helpful than this. It was astoundingly unhelpful. I was helping my friend move one time. And he and I had to move a pool table, just us, downstairs. And our third friend was there at the bottom of the stairs just watching. And even he was more helpful than anyone that the prosecutor gave a plea deal to in this case. At least he could be like, watch your step, something. I'm gonna tell you about some of the testimony. I'm gonna need you to be patient with me because a lot of the dudes testified in this trial are going by their rapper name and they haven't made it yet. So I don't know why it's spelled like that. I don't know how to pronounce it. Just, I'm gonna say he for short, all right? There's one dude that was on the stand, right? And the prosecutor asked him a very specific question, a very specific reason. She goes, did Young Thug have an issue with Rich Homie Quan bringing his friend to the party, right? Now, Rich Homie Quan is also a rapper who has sadly passed away. But his friend, to the best of my knowledge, allegedly, is a gang member, right? This whole question is to paint Young Thug as a leader of a gang. That's why he would have a problem with a different gang member coming to his party, right? So the prosecutor asked, did Young Thug have an issue with Rich Homie Quan bringing his friend to the party? And then this guy on the stand goes, Thug, did you have an issue with Rich Homie Quan? Never in the history of court have I seen someone ask a question by the prosecution and then go, I'll just go to the source. And so then the prosecutor goes, no, I'm asking you. Did Young Thug have an issue with Rich Homie Quan bringing his friend to the party, all right? And then this guy goes, I'm not Young Thug, so I don't know. Moments later, the prosecutor's asking question after question after question, all alleging the same thing, all to the same end, right? And this dude, he's not being combative. He's not even being rude. He's just not being helpful. And so then the prosecutor pulls up, I don't know if she pulled up it exactly, but basically references his plea deal where she goes, I have right here, you answering questions definitively that I'm asking you right now. And then this guy on the stand goes, y'all wrote that, I just signed it. Never in the history of court, at least that I know of, and it's like, you know, the internet especially was of two minds, because it was like people could not decide if these were like some of the dumbest people who had ever lived or legal masterminds. Because basically what this dude is saying in open court, right, is, look, you were about to give me how many years. I didn't want to do how many years, and you told me if I signed the paper, I wouldn't do how many years, right? So I signed the paper, but I'm not about to perjure myself. This dude was supposed to be on the stand for 3 hours. 3 days later. The prosecution is asking question after question after question, all to the same end, right? And, you know, references again. Look, I understand that we typed it up, but what is in this is based off of what you said to the police. This is based off of testimony you gave during interrogation. And he was like, yeah, but if you gave it to me to type up, it would say something different than what you have right there, right now. Even the prosecutor was like, oh. Question after question after question after question. And finally this dude, he doesn't snap exactly. He doesn't lose it, right? I think he just gets exhausted. And finally he says, look, I'll tell you what I told the police. I'll say anything. Like, this is a witness for the prosecution. It's absolutely insane. The whole case is insane because you even look at the fact that the case had 3 different judges. Yeah, got passed off like a bad baton. First judge was Judge, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Glanville, yeah. And this judge, he does seem to suck. Like, he does. But he also had to put up with some stuff too, because there were jurors that were fully out of pocket during this case. Just a couple of examples. There was one juror that got picked. It already took nearly a year, by the way, to pick a jury. which is insane. And then after they pick the jury, there's one juror that during the trial has started, and I think they just went to the Dominican Republic. Deputies got sent to their house, were knocking on the door, everything, and then they got back, and they had to appear in court, and the judge was like, you have jury duty, you have to be here to be on the jury. And they were like, every day? That sounds wildly inconvenient. Then the judge was ready to, hold this jury in contempt and was basically giving them an out, because this judge in particular loved contempt. He had a lot of contempt. The entire trial full of contempt. And gave the juror a way out. He was like, look, I could send you to jail, I could fine you, but what I'm gonna have you do instead is write me a 30-page paper on the importance of being a juror. This dude sentenced her to APA style. He sentenced her to citing sources. You couldn't see his face in the moment, but even Thug was like, damn. That's cruel and unusual. I've never heard of that before. There was another juror that I admittedly, I don't even know what happened with this person, but I know that they got in trouble for for live streaming the case. Which is extra crazy because it was being live streamed. Like if you had been watching at home, you would just see them sitting with the jury like. You risk jail time for an extra angle. We are. Judge Glanville, oof. There was a lot of plea deals being given out the entire case, like I said before, and some of the things that were happening was this is me guessing, but there were people that were not being super forthcoming, that they probably didn't necessarily have to be, but they were in some sort of trouble. And so the plea deal was just given just as an extra, it's okay, you can talk, we just need to get this guy, right? And even with that, there were still people that didn't quite want to testify. And then there were people that were being so difficult, state's witnesses who were being so difficult that the state just could not get anywhere, And there was one person, star witness. Basically, the prosecution needed a through line. They needed something that would connect everything. And so they laid a lot of it on one person in particular. Okay? And they needed his testimony so bad that they pretty much gave him immunity on the stand. I didn't even know you could do that. It sounds made up. It sounds fake. I feel like he thought it was fake too, because he was like, immunity on, so if I say something on the stand, answering one of your questions, and it implicates Thug, but it also implicates me, I'm okay? Yeah, you're okay, you have immunity. Immunity on the stand, you're gonna be good. You sure? Yeah, you're gonna be good. Okay, I'm not even joking. He goes, okay. Okay, but what if it's federal? And I love that. I love a good haggle. I love like, okay, I hear immunity, but can I get a federal? Can I get some federal? Federal, please. Can I get a little federal? Oh, it's beautiful. This dude gets all the stab, and you can tell he doesn't trust it. You can tell he's like, nah, they're up to something. Doesn't want to answer any questions, but we told you have immunity. All right. Basically compelling this man to testify, dangling immunity in his face. Sits on the stand. First question from a prosecutor. How old are you? And he goes, grown. And the prosecutor's like, what do you mean by grown? It's like, I'm an adult. Prosecutor is like, okay, seeing as you're an adult, how many years is that? And then he goes, looks over at the judge. I plead the fifth. Truly incredible work. Truly phenomenal, They would be asking him lots of questions, question after question. And it was getting frustrating for the prosecution. It was getting frustrating for the judge because, look, maybe I'm doing my best to be as fair as possible, but when you watch a case like this, it does just seem like if you're a defendant, you're up against two parties. You're up against the prosecution and you're up against the judge, because everything in this case kept giving the prosecution chances, even when they would mess up. Because once again, they're not being given a lot with testimony, but there are things that they have in hard evidence. They're just not bringing them all together to make it cohesive, right? And then this star witness's testimony is not helping. So then, can't stress this enough, you cannot do this. Judge Glanville supposedly has a secret meeting with the witness and the prosecution, but not Young Thug's lawyers, right? It's something in Latin that I don't know how to pronounce, but you're not supposed to do it. And basically, in this meeting, this witness is then threatened with the dangled immunity and everything. Oh, we'll charge you for this. We'll hold you in contempt for 2 years. We'll put you in jail. All this stuff, unless you start testifying, unless you start answering questions to the best of your ability. I don't want to hear any more of this pleading of the fifth, all that stuff, right? And so then they go back to court, and he's answering questions so well that the defense gets suspicious. Defense is like, what happened between now and lunch? All of a sudden, he remembers everything. He remembered what color everybody was wearing. And then it comes to the defense lawyer's attention that there was this secret meeting. And so he addresses it in court, in front of the judge, to the judge. He goes, Your Honor, I've heard some distressing news that there was a secret meeting with you, the prosecution, and the witness. My client and I were not privy to. I don't know what was discussed. This person's acting different now. Like, what is this? And the judge, instead of denying it, instead of being like, that's a horrible accusation, that's not true at all, the judge goes, who told you that? And you can look at it. You can look at it because it was live streamed. You can look. Who told you that? And he's like, Your Honor, don't worry about who told me that. That's the least of my concern. It's who told me that. The meeting is my concern. He's like, no, I need to know. This is very distressing. I need to know who told you that. And he's like, Your Honor, it doesn't matter who told me that. Is that true? Like, did that happen? Who told you that? Who told you that? Who told you that? Who told you that? Over and over and over. And it's just wild that, like, in a RICO case involving supposed gang members, that the judge is like, who snitched? No, for real, who snitched? Like, hey, I need you to come up out them names. Who snitched? Ain't nobody play with. Look, I will bust everybody in here right now. Who snitched? And Thug's lawyer is like, no, look, I'm not going to tell you, all right? I'm not going to tell you how I came upon this knowledge. I'm just asking you if this happened. I'm asking you, maybe even for a mistrial. Like, how could this happen? He goes, who told you? Who told you? I'm going to give you 5 minutes to tell me who told you. And Thug's lawyer is like, I don't need 5 minutes. I'm not going to tell you. That should be the least of your concern. Like, is this true? And he's like, I'm going to hold you in contempt if you don't tell me. I will put you in jail if you don't tell me. You will go to jail if you do not tell me. It's like, look, I'm not going to tell you. You can put me in jail, but the problem is the meeting. The problem isn't who told me, right? And so then the judge does it. He holds Thug's lawyer in contempt, which is pretty terrifying. You know? This judge is basically going over and over again. Who snitched? Who snitched? I can't stand a snitch. And you know... And you couldn't see Thug's face in the moment, but he had to have been like, I know, right? And so then Glanville does it. He holds Thug's lawyer in contempt. And, you know, the Bar Association hears about it. And they show up to back Thug's lawyer up because that's terrifying. That's terrifying if a judge does something, doesn't even bother denying it, and then holds you in contempt for asking. That's a scary court system. You know what I mean? Because that's one of those things, if it can happen to anybody, it can happen to anybody. Like, I know that it's a case involving hip hop, involving like gang culture, whatever, but that particular thing, that could happen to anybody, I promise you. That's very scary, you know? And so the Bar Association shows up to back this dude up, and it looks like his case is going to be heard, and probably the contempt is going to be thrown out. But basically, they tell Glanville, it's like, there's no way you're impartial. If you're trying this hard, there's no way you're willing to just let the facts play out. And so Glanville has to recuse himself from the case. And one of the things about recusing yourself, it doesn't undo damage. The case just goes on, you know? So there's still this like contempt hanging over Thug's lawyer's head and stuff. And then they move on to the next judge, and the next judge was the judge for a day. I'm not a judge, and I don't know how judges get cases and stuff. Apparently this case was just given to her randomly and everything, and then she got the case and she was immediately like, hey, y'all, I can't. And so many people were like, why? What's the problem? Don't worry about me. I can't right now. And so then the case goes to the third judge. You know, the judge just, that judge. The case goes to her, and she does her best. But it's very difficult. It's very difficult because there are things happening in the case that should just never happen. They actually had an officer come in who was, I guess you could almost call him a specialist in RICO cases through his police work, right? And even he made a mistake on the stand that had the defense asking for a mistrial, because basically the state handled the case so poorly, so messy, just so confusing, right? That the defense would be asking for a mistrial consistently. They were asking for a mistrial the way that you act when you got 2 cards left in Uno. Anybody do anything, you're like, oh. Defense would call for a mistrial. Non-stop. That's a mistrial right there, Your Honor. He just sneezed. That's a mistrial. He gonna get everybody sick. Because this witness on the stand, you know, his testimony, I'm pretty sure, had to be thrown out, because even though he's an expert in RICO and everything, it was 2 things were revealed that were pretty distressing. One, it's a RICO case, so they're trying to get everybody on everybody's crimes, but they never bothered to really look at the financial records of Thug. Which is pretty insane if you're telling me that all the money he makes, he runs through and to a gang. And you didn't bother to check a Chase statement or anything? That's wild. And then, while this officer is giving testimony, he makes a mistake that obviously wouldn't be called out by the prosecution, but does not get called immediately, and then the defense hears it, and then they're like, this is crazy, we can't allow it. Basically, he references past convictions as part of a testimony to what this person would have done in this case, and you can't do that. You got to judge it by the merits of the evidence you have in front of you about what happened right now, right? And at one point, the judge loses it. She storms out. The judge goes, I can't take it anymore. She hadn't even been the judge the whole time, but she was like, this is insanity. And you couldn't see his face, but you could imagine Thug being like, I know, right? Like, no. And so she almost grants a mistrial. You know, there's a mistrial with prejudice and mistrial without prejudice. Mistrial with prejudice is basically don't even bring it up again. Mistrial without prejudice is like, okay, you didn't make the best case, or something happened, or a bunch of jurors went to the Dominican Republic, so like, we can try it again later.
And so, you know, the judge at one point has had it with the prosecution and is giving like a full-on, you just so rarely hear people talk to like this on a live stream that aren't on a Zoom call at home. Like this, she was just like, she was looking at the prosecution and she was at her wit's end, and she was like, I don't know what to say to you. Like, I don't know, with the years of experience that you have, I don't know if you were willfully trying this case as badly as possible, or if you were just so unorganized that you can't seem to string a coherent thought together on how 2 things are related. And we've heard testimony, there are people that don't show up, we're leaving at 4:25. Like, what is happening? And the whole time, prosecution is like, well. You know, you ever just take your talking to because you know you're like, yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah, like the prosecutor had the same nod that dudes have on the street when they getting yelled at on Valentine's Day. It's just like, just go ahead and nod, accept that you've messed up. It was so bad. You know, and it'd be thing after thing after thing, whether it was jurors, whether it was judges, you know, whether it was just wild testimony. There were people so uncooperative, right? Like, there was one point where they showed this guy a picture, right? And it's a picture of him and Thug and 2 other people. Apparently with the person, I don't know, I didn't see the picture, but apparently with the person who was murdered, right? because that's one of the charges. There's drug trafficking, there's like gun running, there's all this stuff, but there's also a murder, right? And when it comes to the murder, that's one of the big ones, because they're alleging that Thug paid for the getaway car, right? And so once again, not checking his financial record seems like an oversight. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying. And they show a picture, right, with all these people to someone on the stand, and they're like, "Do you recognize anyone in this picture?" And he's like, "I see me." Okay, fair enough. Even when it came to the star witness, there was one time where they simply asked this dude, "When did you meet Young Thug?" And he was like, "Before I went to jail." And just for the sake of clarity, the prosecutor tried to clarify, which time before you went to jail? And he just goes, "You right." And I don't know how you handle this sort of thing, because this ended up being the longest trial in Georgia's history. Also, one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, because I guess plea deals cost a lot of money. And it gets so bad that every day, defense is like, "Hey, mistrial's still an option. You want to hit it with no mistrial? You can mistrial." But then, the prosecution would do something that would kind of warrant a little bit of a mistrial. Like, there was even one point where they had someone on the stand read a caption from an Instagram post, and this caption had been poured over because basically through the hashtags, a lot was being alleged, because whenever there's letters, whenever there's numbers, it could have no meaning, or it could have double meaning, or it could mean exactly what the prosecution wants it to mean, it could mean what the defense wants it to mean. And so they were arguing about this one picture over and over again before they would let the person just read it out loud to the jury, right? Because then I don't know if it's a gang, and I don't know if that was what the prosecution was alleging, but there was one point where the prosecutor was asking someone on the stand about a series of numbers, right? And a lot of people will sort of rep their area code. That's just a common thing throughout America, right? Exactly. That one, that's one of those things. It's like it's so unifying. Everyone does it. Like, sometimes you just can't help it. Yeah. But this is my thing. Dude on the stand, prosecutor asked him, "What's 374?" And he was like, "Numbers." Maybe it's a gang, maybe it's not. I have no idea, right? But basically, there's this one picture that's being poured over and over again, and this was the straw that sort of broke everything, right? Because they made agreements, and they had even redacted the picture so that only what would be read was what the prosecution and defense agreed on, based off of the evidence that they were both showing, right? But then when they actually gave the picture to the person on the stand, nothing was redacted. And the prosecutor had them read everything. And so then the defense is like, "Your Honor." I've never heard a lawyer have to like go your honor, kind of like, Mom, like. But this was it, your honor. We just went over the thing. Why would Shaw? And sure enough, Judge agreed. Judge was like, look, I gotta do something else with my life too. Like, it's just, it can't just be this. And the judge said an interesting thing, and like I said, I know a little bit about the law, most of it, what not to do from this case. But the judge says something where she's like, I'm basically trying to salvage something here because I don't want an entire jury's 11 months to be wasted. I don't want, which to me is a little weird. Their time's already been wasted. Like, this is about seeing if someone did or didn't do something, you know? And so that statement was said, but then, you know, judge turns to the defense and goes, I'm not gonna grant you a mistrial with prejudice, but would you like a mistrial without prejudice? And defense was like, yup. And then she was like, I'm inclined to give it to you because this whole thing, this right here, no. No. And so then, you know, they get to plea dealing a bunch of people day after day after day. And then they actually go to Thug and they're like, look, you're facing like 25, 40 years for all the things that we are alleging, right? But we'll give you probation, right? We'll give you probation if you just admit that you are the leader of YSL, a gang where you take all the money and you funnel it through into the gang, and everything they do is at your direction. Like, if you'll just say that, probation, you'll be good to go, right? And then Thug says, no, I'm not just gonna accept. You came to me to make your case for you. I mean, no. And that's a very, I don't know, to me, that's a very, like, brave thing. Like, I don't even fully understand all of the conditions around the sentence that he actually got, but that was what he was initially presented with. And he said no. And then the state said, okay, we're gonna make sure that you do 25 years. And that doesn't sit right with me. And it obviously didn't sit right with his defense attorney. His defense attorney brought it up when the judge was about to make a decision. Basically, he says, Your Honor, the state came to us and they said he could do probation if he signs this piece of paper, or he could do 25 years if he doesn't. And I'm just kind of curious why the state would allow someone that they're so sure is a racketeering, drug peddling murderer to go free with probation if they're sure, right? And that he'll do 25 years if he doesn't say what they're so sure of. And the judge was like, good point. That is very hard to argue against. You know? And then the judge granted Thug probation, and, you know, he went home. And there are some people that are like, man, you know, if he could have just stuck it out a little bit longer, seen the trial to its end, there's no way he would have been convicted. The defense was ruining the state, like, just at every turn. And it was mostly the state tripping over themselves, right? And I get it, though. That dude sat in jail without bond. Dude was in jail for 2 years. He was in jail for a year while they picked the jury. He was in jail the entire trial, you know? And every once in a while, don't get me wrong, every once in a while, Thug would also laugh. Because, like, he was spacing a lot of time, but every once in a while, he'd also be like, how did we get here? This seems... Far be it for me to say, I'm just a rapper, but as far as the law goes... But what? I don't know. I don't know. I get it. I get somebody tells you, hey, you just took 3 more months, you'll go free forever. Maybe. That's scary, you know? And it's also scary that, like, that the state needed it this bad. That a lot of cases come down to reputation over justice. You couldn't just take the L, right? It's like, no, you will die in prison for me to not look bad. That's terrifying, you know? And I know it feels like it can't happen. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't rap, but I could see myself in a bad situation. You know, because it kind of begs the question, you know, did this person get away with a bunch of stuff? Or did the state just jam someone up for 2 years? Latter. You know, thanks. But that's my thing. It's like I don't even know. And I'm obviously not Thug. You know, I hope that everybody can like move on in the most prosperous way possible. I really do. Everybody that testified, everybody. I wish the best for everyone, I really do. I just can't seem to think there's a level of peace you have to attain that I don't know if I have. Because like if someone accused me of being this like drug running, you know, murderer, this horrible person, like this that did all these things, and they were willing to put me in jail forever with a bad case that they didn't have enough evidence for, and then they were just like, you can go if you just sign it. I think it would make me mad enough to kill someone. But that's just me.
I do my best to be fair with people. I'm not perfect at it, but I try, you know. And sometimes the fairest thing you can do for a person is be honest with them. Like, so how many people do you know in your life who are suffering because the people around them let them live in delusion? You know what I mean? I've had to sit friends down and be like, listen, you're gonna have to date who like you. There's no way around it. So sometimes the nicest thing you can do for a person is be honest with them. And if I'm being honest, I feel like Donald Trump might be having one of the worst weeks of his life. This is very, very bad. I mean, this is, oof. I've watched people have bad weeks. I watch it, okay. I've watched people have terrible weeks. There was a dude from my hometown that would ride his bike everywhere, and he got hit by a car and struck by lightning in the same week. He survived both, but wow. Because he was riding his bike, and you know, a lot of cities in the South we don't have enough sidewalk. We really abandoned the entire idea of someone might want to get somewhere in not a car. So he was riding his bike, but there's no sidewalk, and there's also no like bike lane where I grew up. And so there's just like, if you take the service road, it's just ditch and then ditch and then ditch and then ditch. And so then he over here BMXing the ditches going. But then when you do that, you do appear out of nowhere, because the ditch is deep enough where you know you ride, and then there's a little bit of road, then there's another ditch, and then you pick up another ditch, right? You know that's how you get there. But anyone making a left turn on the service road just sees someone on a bike coming truly out of nowhere and sends them flying, right? So he got hit by a car, and the car was turning, so this means it was slower than it could have been, and turned into him. He flipped over everything, bam, 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 landed in the ditch, so at least landed on some grass, right? And then he was all banged up, and then he had to walk the rest of the week until he get his bike fixed, until he healed up a little bit. He had to, walk around town. He was walking around town, and there was a thunderstorm. Which normally, here's the thing, this is like a big Southern tradition, right? Is that when it's lightning outside, nobody do anything. We turn off the TV. Turn off every appliance. Unplug it. Turn off everything. And don't move. I know you inside, don't move. That lightning see you moving from outside, it might want to come visit, all right? Don't move, stop. Be still where you are, unless you are moving to unplug something or turn something off. In fact, lay down on the ground so you can be grounded. And sometimes you'll tell people, like someone will like not be from the South, and they'll come over and it'll be a lightning storm, and you just start turning everything off, and they're like, what are you doing? And it's like, oh, okay, you can play with the Lord if you want to, but I like not being lit up, okay? I'm not even using this blender right now anyway. What point is there for this house to get struck by lightning and then the blender work real good for 6 seconds and then never work again? And so he was walking out in the thunderstorm, and to be fair to him, it was like, what was he supposed to do? I guess lay down. But like, what was he really supposed to do? So he's walking, making his way and everything, and up off the ditch, and now he can watch for cars a little easier because he's on foot and stuff, ditch and everything. And then the lightning hit him, right? And it hit okay, the way, I never been hit by lightning before, but the way that it hit him, he did, this is what I'm told, I was not there, but the way the lightning hit him, he did bounce. And I don't know, I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know that could happen, because it didn't seem like being struck by lightning was a buoyancy thing. But yeah, like he basically got hit by lightning, and then he didn't bounce high. It's not like he bounced like a basketball up, but he basically, lightning, boom, and then he went up a little, and then he hit the ground all hot. Charred. And then he had like a scar on the body and everything because struck by lightning. It survived. I've never seen personally somebody get hit by lightning and then get up. I wouldn't. If I got struck by lightning, I'd be like, y'all, you know what? The Lord knows I need a nap. I'm gonna take a nap. Works in mysterious ways. Sometimes you just need to sit down somewhere. What makes you sit down anywhere, like being struck by lightning? And so, he boom, boom, boom. And that was trying to get places next 2 days was very rough because he was already banged up from the car. and he was crispy. And he still wasn't having the week that Donald Trump is having. This is like... This is very bad. All right, in case you're not familiar, Donald Trump, the president was, you know, like, minding his business, trying to enjoy the government shutdown ending, right? Which should be, that should be a good day. It should, you know, you shut down ended and everything. And so, you know, he got signed the thing and he has everybody in the office and stuff. And the night before, looks like the House Dems released these 3 emails that were from Epstein's estate. So it's different. It's different from like if something was subpoenaed and stuff. It's not like something that was like sealed and then is being released. This, I think, works differently where it's just from the estate, right? And so then they release these 3 emails, and the 3 emails are not, they're not Epstein talking to Trump. They're Epstein talking about Trump. And on what should have been a good day, all right, the best way I could describe what happened is I went to a birthday party, and at this birthday party were a bunch of different friend groups. Like, I shouldn't say a bunch, like 2 friend groups. But I don't know if you've ever had this in your life where you have this person who you're friends with who has a bunch of friends, and then you have this other person you're friends with who has a bunch of friends. But it's enough people in general, whether it's because of school or because of work or what, it's enough people in general that the people that know them, eventually there's an overlap of people who are friends with this person, but hate each other. Like they hate each other, or they hate the other friend, but they're part of this friend group, hate the other friend, right? So I was at one of those birthday parties. I was at a birthday party for someone, and the person who hated him the most came to the birthday party. They came because they were invited by our least thoughtful friend, and so having no awareness, least thoughtful friend invites them to the surprise party, and so then we're all like, "Hey, surprise!" And they see this person, they were surprised, and then everybody's waiting for something to pop off, and nothing ever did, because they hate each other. Like, ooh, they hate is below the heart, is behind and underneath. They hate from like the diaphragm, I think. They hate so much, they hate him. Anyway, so they hated the birthday boy a lot. Like, ooh, I wish I hate you. And so then they bring out the cake, and the cake got like one of the candles for every year, and they getting up there, so it's enough candles to light up a room, and put it down. Birthday boy blows them all out. They cut up the cake. We're all chatting and everything in different rooms and stuff. And then the one that hate him, right, leans over to me, and he's like, before everybody, was like singing happy birthday and everything, before they like brought out the cake and stuff, I farted in the cake. In my head, I was like, in? In just assumes a level of power that Normally you'd say on, but whatever. And that is what the House Dems did to Trump on the day. It's supposed to be, it's not his birthday, but it's supposed to be a good day. And shutdown is ending. It's supposed to be good for, it's supposed to be good day. And so then you see in these emails, they're just not good at all. And it's not like, this is why I would be mad if I was Trump, because it's not even Epstein talking to Trump, it's Epstein talking to somebody else about Trump, right? So it's the equivalent of like, you at home, and your friend did something, got caught, and then your friend comes to your house with the police. Your friend come to your house with the police and goes, hey, come on out, they got us. What do you mean us? I was at home. Because the email doesn't even like one of the main ones that was making the rounds on the news doesn't even like implicate Trump in anything. It just implies that Trump knows something that Epstein knows about what Epstein did that is very bad. That he hasn't told any authorities, but he knows is bad, right? Which doesn't look good. It's just one of those like, this is bad for everybody. Is what? And I don't know how we got to this place, because Epstein saga has so many episodes. There is a Marvel universe of Epstein updates. It's never over, it just goes deeper. And then, this is what the Dems do. Then the Republicans come out, and Republicans are like, all right, but why were the Dems sitting on these emails? Why are they releasing them now? That's pretty convenient, right? Like, why are you farting in his birthday cake? And then, I suppose, to try to show transparency, to try to be like, we're actually the party that wants to get to the bottom of the Epstein thing the most, the Republicans release 20,000 pages. 20,000 pages. I don't know if I've sent 20,000 emails in my life. 20,000 like emails, these pages of Epstein talking about everything, talking about Trump, talking about like Larry Summers, talking about like, it's so much. It's so much it makes you wonder, whoa, why 20,000? It almost felt like they were like, you know what? Release 20,000, people don't read. They won't read it. It turns out people are pretty interested in reading. It turns out if it's an interesting enough novel, people will dive deep into the reading. Because we're in a stressful time where it doesn't feel like things fully matter. Like there used to, back in the day there was shame. So like, if you were in public office, if you were in public office and you did something, or somebody accused you of something, or like sometimes it didn't even have to be anything, There was enough shame that you would resign or you would retire from politics in shame because we had shame. Like people had more shame, right? And I don't know, I'm not gonna blame all of it on like social or influencer culture or anything like that, but we have more people than ever that we know about in our own little pockets, right? We have more people than ever that are involved in scandals. It used to be if you were in a scandal, you were either a politician or like a Hollywood celebrity. Those were really the only people who could even get into a scandal. But now you could just be an influencer, and like even more specific, you could be like a makeup influencer and you get into a scandal that only affects the people who watch you, right? And so now we're watching more people than ever try to navigate having a scandal, which has also made scandals more normal. And so now instead of looking to how we would all expect someone in a scandal to react, we look at how the person reacts. So you go back in time, like all Nixon did was listen to some tapes. Like when you really sum it up, it's like, yes, the spying and the blah, blah, blah. But it's like Nixon himself, like just Nixon, listened to a garbled tape that was of no consequence, really. It was like, that man resigned over. And I know he did plenty other stuff besides that. I'm just saying, like, the thing that when we think of Watergate, when people even really think about what Watergate is or what it meant to people, it was the scandal of like the government spying and like how the opposition treats each other and everything like that. But when you really look at Nixon, I'm not taking up for Nixon at all. I'm literally just saying that when I watched the documentary, it sounded like he resigned over. And he left. And now there's like a scam. There's something happening. And obviously everybody puts it on Trump specifically, and he is our version of it, but it was happening all around the West before this. Like it was bubbling up. Everything does not revolve around this man. There was something that was happening in lots of different places where politicians were realizing how much they could stress test the trust of the general public, right? Like you even look at Canada with Rob Ford. Rob Ford was the mayor of Toronto. And Rob Ford smoked crack on camera. This man did just smoke crack on camera. He smoked more crack than I've ever seen anybody smoke on camera. He smoked crack on camera so many times that I think he is the most crack smoke taped person of all time. Lots of crack. And he'd get drunk too. And it would be like, who set up the camera? I guess Rob Ford. Like he just... It was scandal after scandal after scandal. It was stuff he would say. It was videos that would come out. It was stuff that he would say. It was videos that come out. It would just be over and over and over again. He wasn't like turning some new leaf. He was just one of the first people that when they came to him, they were like, were you smoking crack? And he was like, I was not smoking crack. Then in the next video it came out, he's like, oh, it's delicious. Like I can't tell you how much crack he was smoking. And just never seen somebody smoke crack like it was candy, right? And like this is okay, look, maybe this may be wrong of me, but when I was watching the documentary about him smoking the crack and stuff like that, before they revealed that there were tons of crack tapes, like a ridiculous amount of crack tapes. I don't know if anybody watched all the crack tapes. He has that many, right? But before they revealed that he actually did smoke crack, when he was denied smoking the crack, I was like, I don't know if this dude did this. Like, sure, he's like brash, and sure, he's like, you know, this like wild character. I definitely believe he was getting drunk, and they even showed a video of him drunk. I didn't believe the crack because I had never seen, do you know what I mean? I just never seen such a heavy set crackhead. You know what I mean? Like he would. I'm just saying, like, he had that plausible deniability from me, because every crackhead I'd ever seen was petite. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all right, fine, whatever. Some of y'all being weird, but you know you've never seen somebody smoke crack and have a cheeseburger. That is not something that happens within the same 5 minutes. No one has crack for dessert. And he was one of the first people. Like, he was actually a little bit pre-Trump. Right? People forget about him, but he was. And they came to him and they were like, aren't you going to resign in shame? And he was like, I don't even really feel any shame. No, I think I'm good. I think I'm just going to stay. And we still, as a people, in every country this happens in, don't know what to do with that. We don't. We, like, that happens and we're like, oh, I thought you would have some shame. And Rob was like, no, I don't have any shame. I have crack. And it's delicious. Truly, when I tell you, sometimes I can even feel the shame creeping up, but like, shame and crack never meet. They're never in the same room together. So if you feel any of that shame creeping in and you hit a little crack, shame seems to disappear. Because now you even look at like with like influencer culture, there used to be this thing, like let's take it all the way back, right? Let's take it all the way back to maybe like the 80s or 90s, where if a tape came out of you in some sort of lewd act, it was immediately shameful. It was like immediately the thought process around it. I'm not even saying whether or not that's right. I'm saying that's what people did, okay? And now you fast forward to today and something will leak. Maybe someone's nudes leak, maybe a video of them leaks, and then we wait for the person to react to know if we feel shame for them or if we try to shame them. It's all based off their reaction. We look to them to know what to do next. So if something happens, if a tape goes out, if some nudes leak or something like that, and the person's like, oh yeah, that's what I look like, we're like, oh, okay, all right, wow. And not across the board. I'm just saying that becomes the sort of general understanding. But then if that person's reaction is, oh no, you saw me naked, we'll be like, oh, we did. Shame. And so then these 20,000 pages come out. And wow, also not good. Not good at all. Because it's not just Epstein implicating Trump in like other meetings, other times they hung out, other things, other. It's also like Epstein talking real nasty and bad about Trump. Now this is, look, some of it is before their breakup, and then some of it is after. And there have been plenty of people that said, hey, listen, this guy who is no longer friends with Trump, we're talking bad about Trump after they're not friends anymore, what's that supposed to mean? You know what I mean? Why should that even matter? And it's like, look, I understand where you're coming from, but if he's talking about anything that happened while they were still friends, while they hung out to somebody, that does mean something. That does matter, you know? And he was talking wild about Trump, even saying stuff like, I'm the only one that could bring him down with the stuff I know and everything. And look, this is just me. Just me, all right? I'm not friends with Epstein, glad I wasn't, okay? But I'm just saying, if it was me and Epstein was talking this reckless about me over email with all these people, I'd probably be very upset. I'd get very mad. I'd probably get mad enough to kill him in his cell. I'm not saying that is what happened. I'm saying that's what I might do. Me. I'm saying that's what I might do, but I'm petty. You know? I didn't let you stay at my house and everything. You talking crazy about me in these emails. No. You gotta go. There's gonna be a missing minute in the video. Because that's also what's wild. That's where we left off, you know? Remember where we left off, where there was They released the video and it was hours long and it was missing the most important minute it could miss. Yeah. Remember when there were like no files? Remember when Pam Bondi was like, look, there's no files. Don't listen to your memory. I know what I said before, but what I'm saying now is more important. There's no files. Isn't it more convincing that there's no files than there's files? And we were all like, what is she talking about? It's bad. It's bad. You know what's so crazy to me? You know what's so crazy to me about a lot of this stuff is that this is Trump we're talking about. Trump was on trial in New York for like, I don't know, some like real estate fraud or whatever. And this dude, it wasn't looking good. It was looking like he might, get found guilty. And the judge had to give him a bunch of warnings. The judge's over here like, you need to stop talking about this case to the media. You need to stop talking about me to the media. Stop. I don't know what else he was doing. Like, stop doxing the stenographer. What? Like, stop. Just stop. You're talking too much. Nobody that's a defendant in any of my other cases I oversee talks as much as you to the media about this case. You gotta stop. And then Trump for his part, Trump, even to his credit, I'd say, was like in danger of being held in contempt almost the entirety of the case. And the judge like, I'm gonna hold you in contempt. I'm gonna do it. And Trump was like, do it. No, do it. I want to be in contempt. I bet you won't do it. And then he would tell him, don't go out there and talk to the media about this case. And then Trump would walk up to the first person with a camera he saw. It could be a camera phone. He could just walk up. And he was like, judge doesn't know what he's doing. He crooked. Everybody crooked. I'm going to win in 2020. But just nonstop. That. You got to remember, that's the guy that we're talking about. But that's not how he's acting about this. Which means it must be bad. This dude was in court and wasn't scared. But this man, they reached out to all of these Republicans to try to help stop this petition, right? There's this petition to release the Epstein files in the House, and that petition has to go to the Senate, and the petition, but, he's trying to get it stopped. He's trying to get it killed, like now. Want it killed now, right? Gotta kill it. And so he's reaching out to people who have even been vocal about the fact that they will be on board with signing the petition. Reaches out to like Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is the thing. Look, at the end of the day, maybe he did reach out because he just wanted to talk to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Maybe, you know what I mean? I'll be honest with you. If you could put all politics aside in your mind and you hop on the phone with Marjorie Taylor Greene, it will be interesting. You know what I mean? You'll be like, I didn't know about the lasers, Marjorie. If I was ever on the phone with Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know what I would do to keep her on the phone? I would every couple sentences, I'd just go, oh! Let her think she was blowing my mind. Throw in a really every now and again. Calls Marjorie Taylor Greene. Apparently none of them are having it. Apparently. Lauren Boebert even was pressured so much to not sign a petition, she was like, it must be worse than I thought. Y'all barely talk to me. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she didn't put her foot down. Marjorie Taylor Greene has actually really turned on Trump so much that it got Trump's attention so much that Trump has turned on Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they're beefing right now, which is hilarious. That is so funny. The idea that Trump is over here being like, y'all know Marjorie Taylor, he's over here calling her a lunatic, calling her crazy, all this stuff like that. The fact that Trump is over here like, Marjorie Taylor Greene crazy, and we're like, we know. That's wild for... What other revelations you got? Did you know Hannibal Lecter wasn't a good guy? I'll tell you as well why Trump's not having a good week. You know, there's been interviews, and there's just been a general discontent with some of what's happening in the country. You know, Trump ran on America First. It's supposed to be Americans first. It's supposed to be America first. But what is happening? And what place is America in? It doesn't seem like there's a one in front of it. You know, because people point to, you know, how ruthless in the shutdown things got with SNAP, how people are treated in the country, how America First just sort of feels like a slogan. It doesn't feel like it's really in the agenda. It doesn't feel like what's really happening and everything. And so then you see members of the MAGA movement turning on Trump. And maybe not fully and maybe not forever, but it is like happening. There's a swell of discontent with what he's been doing, how the country is right now. There were so many things that are supposed to be fixed on day one. You can talk as much as you want. He's very good at campaigning. He's not good at governing. Like he's so good at campaigning because campaigning is before you have to. All right. One of the roughest drawbacks. One of the roughest drawbacks with dating, right, is that someone's getting to know you. They don't know you yet, and you can put your best foot forward. You can even try to be the person you're pretending to be, but they're getting to know you, right? And the thing is that early phase where they're getting to know you, the good stuff that happens can also hurt you in the long run. Okay, like my buddy, all right, they had like a fun little, we're gonna cook for our first date, right? I'm gonna go take a little cooking class. And so they go to this cooking class, and there was this jar, and she couldn't open the jar. She was trying with the jar. Trying with the jar. And you can even tell that she was kind of loosening it, but finally she handed it to him, and he goes immediately, right? Which is great. You did it. But now you gotta be strong enough to open jars. It looked like that's what you do. No. Ooh, we gotta watch out. Some of the stuff that happens that first time, you in trouble, man. You in trouble if it's the first 3 dates and y'all get into something scary happens. Maybe somebody even tries to mug you or something like that, and you win the fight. Oh, I hope you weren't just lucky. I hope you weren't just lucky, because now my man fight, all right? She gonna tell everybody her man fights. She might even start a couple fights for you. Oh, you want my man to come over here and handle you? In the back of your head, you're like, look, the mugger slipped in a puddle. I mean, I just grabbed the purse back. That's all I did. And like dating to being in a relationship is like what campaigning is to governing. It's wild even to watch some people's reactions. There are some people who have some truly insane and disgusting reactions, or just reactions that are meant to confuse. There are so many people that are like, why didn't the Dems release all this stuff years ago when Biden was president. And it's like, all right, this is the way that records work. There are some things that you could just release outright, like things that maybe you get from an estate or something like that. But then there are things that are part of an investigation, which as long as that investigation is going on, as long as that court case is going on, you can't just release those things to the public. Now that some of these things have been set to rest now, like, you know, obviously like Ghislaine is in jail and everything. And then there are other parts of documents that get redacted either because they're part of a potential ongoing investigation or it's to protect the name of a survivor of the abuse or something like that. There's all these different reasons that you could have for when you release things on whatever schedule. But even when people make that sort of argument, I'm like, wait, I can't tell. Are you mad that they are released? Like, what, I don't even know what that's meant to accomplish. Why didn't the Dems release it sooner? It's like, all right, it's out now. Isn't that what we're talking about? That's insane. That type of logic would never hold up in like court. You'd never be able to go to court with like, look, if the police care so much, why didn't they catch me sooner? Y'all over here acting like you care. I did it a long time ago. You didn't try that hard to find me. Oh. You see so much of this stuff happening, and you're like, wow, every day you try to move on. Every time you try to move on, it gets worse. 20,000. And 20,003 emails. And I don't know what's going to happen, because if I'm being honest, like truly being honest with you right now, I know that one of the reasons that Trump is trying to get them to stop in the House from all signing the petition is because then it goes to the Senate, and then if enough people have turned on him in the Senate, it then goes to the president, and he is the president, which means he would have to, and we stopped electing people with integrity a long time ago. So like I don't expect, like truly, I don't expect Trump to sign something that is basically dry snitching on himself. I don't think that would happen.
Dry humping.
Dry humping. But I will say this, I think that there's a very slim chance that it's like Trump's gonna go to jail, or that this will be enough for everyone to turn on him and then just kick him out of office or anything. This is one of those things that is very bad. It's a very bad look. He's panicked about it. People are speculating why he's panicked about it, but it's not the thing that's gonna make him sort of like Nixon up out of here. No. I'm just being honest with you, and I think that it's easy to forget in all of these different chapters and all of these like extra extensions to the saga that is the sort of Epstein files, that there are real people. There are survivors of Epstein, there are survivors of Ghislaine, that are survivors of all of this abuse and trauma that deserve justice. And the thing that we can do, the thing that we just personally can do, is keep that in mind and hold the people that represent us to account. Let them know that we'll be looking at them for what they do consistently, that we'll be bringing it up, that we won't let it go away. It won't be over just because it falls out of the news cycle. It will not go away. It won't be over. And I think the only thing that we can do as individuals, but collectively together, is just keep farting in his cake as often as possible. Chattanooga, y'all been fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.